On camera. Welcome, everyone. My name is Nancy Lopez. I'm a board member of DC Refers. DC Refers is a network of lawyers and mediators who are committed to increasing access to justice for people of modest means in the District of Columbia. We have a directory of lawyers who practice in a wide variety of different practice areas, and they agree that if they are serving someone whose income falls between 200 and 400% of the federal poverty guidelines, they will charge between $75 and $150 an hour. With that discounted legal services, DC Refers has provided thousands of dollars of value to district residents and allowed many, many people who were over income for free legal services but couldn't afford to pay market rates to have a lawyer by their side when they're doing something that it really matters a lot to them. I'm going to do a quick share of my screen as I'm talking so that folks can see, hopefully. So we are really excited today to have Kelli Neptune, the Executive Director of the DC Bar Pro Bono Center, with us. And we will introduce her and have her talk in just a moment. This is what the DC Refers website looks like. People come in and they can find a lawyer, they can find a mediator, and they can apply to join the panel. If you're looking for a lawyer, you can choose what kind of legal problem you have, and it walks you through a short intake process. Sometimes people do this on their own, and sometimes people do it with the help of a lawyer who might be helping them find the right place. And that is also where you join if you are looking to join as a lawyer. Our lawyers all have at least 2 years of legal experience, malpractice insurance, positive references, and are ready to and have a commitment to serving people of modest means. We are excited about our mediation program. We have a panel of mediators, and if you think that mediation might be the better resolution to your dispute rather than litigation, you can give it a try. And again, it's at a reduced fee service for people of modest means. And then I hope that you will register for our next DC Refers Reconnect, where we'll be talking with Alana Brown from Safe Sisters Circle and Melody Webb from the Mothers Outreach Network. They're two more recently established legal nonprofits, and we're excited to hear about the work they're doing and see what resources they are offering to the community. With that, let me introduce Kelli. She is the Executive Director of the DC Bar Pro Bono Center, and she joined just in May of 2022. Before that, she was the Director of Externships and Public Interest Programming at Howard University Law School. And before that, this is the part I'm most excited about, she spent 12 years in private practice doing criminal and family law. So she understands what it's like to try and run a law firm. And she has been a visiting professor at the Georgetown University Law Center Juvenile Justice Clinic and at the Howard University School of Law's Criminal Justice Clinic. She has 10 years of experience with the Public Defender Service in the District of Columbia, first as a staff attorney and then as a senior deputy trial chief of the trial division. So she brings a wealth of experience, and I'm so excited to hear about her vision for the DC Bar Pro Bono Center, about this, moving into civil legal services and how the vision for access to justice in DC. And with that, I will hand it over to Kelli.
Well, thank you so much, Nancy. I really appreciate the introduction and the invitation to speak to DC Refers. DC Refers is such an important stakeholder in this community, and I was really excited to speak to members of DC Refers and to talk talk about the DC Pro Bono Center and talk about the status of pro bono services in the district. So thank you for that. And with that, I will show my screen and start sharing my screen to talk about the DC Bar Pro Bono Center. Okay. All right. So I'm assuming everyone can see the screen. All right. Okay. So the DC Bar Pro Bono Center is the largest provider of pro bono legal services in the district, and we serve more than 20 1,000 individuals, nonprofits, and small businesses each year, and we would not be able to do the work that we do without the support of our volunteer lawyers. And we have about 1,500 volunteer lawyers who are providing legal services and brief advice and to our programs. So the DC Bar Pro Bono Center, if you could think, it's kind of divided into kind of two sections, and I will start in talking about our legal services that we provide for individuals and families, and then I will migrate and talk about the services that we provide for nonprofits and small businesses. But with our individual and family side, we have 2 full representation programs or clinics. And so we have our bankruptcy clinic where we represent people in bankruptcy court who have filed for Chapter 7. And then we have our advocacy and justice clinic. And our advocacy and justice clinic is a full representation clinic, and we provide representation for those who are seeking it for mostly SSI, SSDI for disability. We do a number of cases with housing. So we do eviction defense, we have housing conditions and motion to seal evictions. We represent clients in family law, divorces, and child custody. We also represent clients with consumer law who have debtors issues or predatory lending issues. And then we also represent people with personal injury defense. We also provide what we call brief advice clinics, and we have 2 of them. So the first one is our advice and referral clinic. And so I'll kind of talk about what we were doing kind of pre-COVID and kind of how we are migrating back to that. But pre-COVID, we would have monthly clinics at Bread for the City. There were 2 locations. And from my understanding, the line was literally kind of wrapped around the building. And so on the 2nd Saturday of each month, people would come and they're looking for kind of brief advice and brief services. We would do everything from representing people with their with a petition, answering petition, answering pleadings, giving advice. And so due to a vacancy, we've had to suspend this particular clinic, but we hope to reopen the clinic in the first part of 2023. Obviously, during the pandemic, we had to migrate over to an online kind of remote platform, but this clinic really is a community clinic, and it works really well when it is in person, and we hope to bring that back soon. Our second brief advice clinic is the Immigration and Legal Advice Referral Clinic. With this clinic, we are representing people and giving them brief services and brief advice on a number of immigration matters. I am happy to say that for the first time since the pandemic started, that we will have an in-person clinic for our December clinic at the Carlos Rosario School. We also operate a number of court-based programs, and so I'll take each of them one by one. So we have a landlord-tenant resource center, and with our landlord-tenant resource center, people who have a case in landlord-tenant court are able to get legal advice, whether they are a small landlord or a tenant. And so they are able to be able to get access to one of our volunteer lawyers, and we operate that clinic every day of the week. For our landlord-tenant legal assistance network, and I actually will kind of talk about this a little later on, this is a network that we share with 5 other legal service providers. And so the really nice thing about our landlord-tenant legal assistance network is we provide legal advice and representation for those who have matters in L&T court, who are seeking representation for their impending evictions, or for landlords who are also seeking advice and representation. Our Consumer Law Resource Center, again, we would kind of give brief advice and brief representation to those who have consumer law issues. And then with our Family Law Assistance Network, similar to our landlord-tenant legal assistance network, that is in collaboration with 2 other legal service providers, and people who have a family law case are able to kind of have access to a lawyer to help answer any legal questions that they have, and those who are seeking representation. So the second portion of the DC Bar Pro Bono Center I was talking about is divided kind of into 2 sections. The second one is our nonprofit and small business legal assistance programs. And kind of the really unique aspect of this program is that we provide assistance to small businesses and kind of community-based businesses and nonprofits as well. We do a mix of legal services and legal education. We also have clinics for our small businesses, whether they are kind of looking for kind of a host of, whether they are facing kind of a host of legal issues, that we are able to kind of provide assistance to them with that. And I will kind of go over some of the things that we are able to help our nonprofits and our small businesses. But we give advice with entity formation, corporate governance, employment, intellectual property, contracts and licenses, kind of everything you see on the screen, even kind of regulatory issues in IRS and tax compliance. The really nice thing about our nonprofit and small business is that we have 2 dynamic lawyers who are able to help, and we even have something called office hours, right, where they can actually drop in and get a chance to speak to a lawyer, to talk to one of our lawyers at the DC Bar Pro Bono Center about their small business and their nonprofit. We also provide resources and training, and so one of the wonderful things about when people volunteer with the DC Bar Pro Bono Center is that we, and I like to say, provide kind of wraparound services to our volunteers. And what I mean by that is that lawyers who volunteer with us agree to take a case or want to provide kind of brief advice and brief representation, is that we provide training on that particular topic, right? So you could have lawyers who are not practicing in a particular area, who might not be comfortable with practicing in another area, where we provide training for lawyers to be able to take these cases. Additionally, we have kind of an external mentor and what we call an internal mentor. What I mean by that is that we have external mentors who are experts, right, in whatever practice area that the lawyer is taking the case in. And so if there is a question during the pendency of the litigation or pendency of the case, then our volunteer will be able to talk to an expert mentor about the case. Similarly, we have kind of an internal mentor or a mentor on staff at the DC Bar Pro Bono Center who are able to answer questions. But additionally, we have pleadings and online trainings and videos for lawyers who want to represent clients and through the DC Bar Pro Bono Center. But we also provide kind of resources to the greater community, right? And particularly lawhelp.org/DC is a website that has kind of a plethora of information. The information is for the public, and a lot of legal service providers and lawyers look at this website, and they are able to ascertain information about practice areas. We have a legal information helpline, and that helpline is a telephone service because we recognize that not all of our clients have access to the internet. And the legal information helpline is like a phone tree where people can call and kind of get their questions answered through the phone tree. If they have a question that has not been answered through the phone tree, then they are free to leave a message and someone will get back to them to help them answer their question or to make a referral. We have a probono.net/DC, and this website is for our volunteer lawyers. And again, it has pleadings, it has different trainings on it. And so it's just kind of like a bank of resources for our volunteers. And as I mentioned earlier, we have a really robust and award-winning training program. And with our training program, again, our volunteers are able to have access to faculty who are experts in their field. And we have also a bank of trainings that are online. And so, with that, I was able to kind of talk about the DC Pro Bono Service Center and kind of the services that we provide. But I also just kind of want to touch on kind of what I think is the vision, right, for civil legal services. And I honestly think that kind of the way that we are going with kind of being more collaborative with the different legal services providers, I think really is kind of the wave of the future. As I mentioned earlier with our with LT Line, it is us and 5 other legal service providers. Also with FLAN for family law cases, it's us and 2 other legal service providers. And what that means is that we are sharing one access point, right? Is there a number of, as you know, legal service providers in the district, and clients can really spend a lot of time kind of wading through that. But the really nice thing about kind of how we are working collaboratively, and especially with our landlord tenant legal assistance network, is there's one entry, one access point, and we do the conflicts checks, right? And so you don't have people who are calling legal service provider A, finding out that they can't be represented, and then wasting time, especially with an eviction case when time is of the essence. We do the conflict checks, and then we were able to place that client with a provider with representation early, and being able to represent them on their eviction case. And it just makes it so much easier for the clients. And that is exactly what we need to do. I see this as something that we should do really throughout all of the practice areas that kind of affect our clients, right? And so there's a lot of work to be done, but kind of having more collaboration with the legal services providers, and I think is something that is definitely kind of what we're moving towards and what we should be moving towards. I will also say that the DC Bar Foundation with their coordinated intake referral system is kind of the same concept, where you just kind of have that one access point, but more collaboration with our volunteer attorneys, right? So you have collaboration with legal service providers and also with attorneys. And what do I mean by that? Well, as Nancy mentioned, that I have my own practice, and so we need to kind of think about kind of what pro bono, what low bono kind of looks like. It's not a one size fits all. And so as a former solo practitioner, I get it. So sometimes there was feast and sometimes there was famine, but the willingness to be able to kind of to provide services within the community that fit within kind of my own kind of professional life is something that obviously what DC Refers does, and we need to have kind of more opportunities for lawyers to be able to do low bono in this space, and we also kind of need to collaborate more with legal services providers to provide and to help with low bono opportunities, right? So because a lot of calls that we get, we might not be able to take them, but then to have more of a partnership with organizations like DC Refers and to have more low bono opportunities for lawyers. Another kind of collaboration, and I know that's something that we are working on at the Pro Bono Center, is to kind of diversify our volunteer of lawyers. And so what do I mean by that? Diversify in terms of getting more solo practitioners and more small firm lawyers who are volunteering with us, right? Diversifying racially, diversifying with gender identity and orientation, diversifying culturally, right? And with language, right? Especially here in DC, to have more language access, to increase language access with our volunteer lawyers is something that we are definitely working on. And what does that look like? Well, it means that we have to be more engaged within the communities, within the volunteer bar associations, to present, to let organizations know who we are. Yeah, I think we've been around for a while, so people kind of know our name, but what do we do? And to answer the question that lawyers might have, how can I help? Right? How can I volunteer? Is something we just need to keep messaging and to go to different associations to let people know who we are and the types of pro bono services that we provide. And also, we need to kind of, again, just be more collaborative with these two groups. And I also see, in terms of kind of like the vision and the future for our community, is kind of an expansion, if you will, of technology. Right? So what do I mean by that? Kind of the increased use of technology. We are working so hard, all of us in this community are working really hard to close the access gap, right? But until it is closed, right, until that, every litigant is represented, we need to help the self-represented litigants. And the use and advent of technology, for instance, with smartphones, right? So to have kind of real-time corrective forms that will allow litigants not to have fatal errors, right, in their pleadings, is something that I think would be huge, right? Something that I know would be very advantageous to this population. But also, some of the things that we think about may or may not be available right now, but it doesn't mean that we can't be working towards them. And so one thing that, my team and I were talking about is the use of kind of simulations, right? So, we all have been in court where, it is very daunting, very intimidating. And so to have clients be able to use this simulation technology to actually put themselves in court, to see what it looks like, to just see where do I sit, right? And so for them to kind of be able to simulate court, to have a better understanding of what they should do is also something that I see for the future. So I don't want to talk too long, because I know that people might have questions, but it's really exciting kind of talking about what the future could look like for pro bono services.
I thank you so much. I feel like I've known the Pro Bono Center for a long time, but I still heard things that I didn't know you all did, and the breadth and the scope of it is really amazing. And it's great to hear about all the collaborations and innovations and all of that. I do want to invite people to either put a question in the chat or just come off mute if you have a question. And while we're waiting to see if anybody else has a question, I had one. Do you have a timeline for when the Advice and Referral Clinic might come back in person?
I get that a lot. I do. It is.
I miss it.
I know it is such a popular clinic. I would say sometime like, first quarter of 23. I mean, we are working hard, very diligently on bringing that back. Again, it is a clinic that works really well in person, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to have in-person clinics. We're thinking about kind of locations. We've already visited the Southeast Clinic for BRID for the city, and so right now we are just kind of talking about kind of what the kind of a revamped A&R clinic is going to look like, because again, we want to make sure that we are providing services, that we're doing an effective job of providing services to our clients, that it works for our volunteers, right? And it also works for the staff. So fingers crossed for the first part of 23.
That's great. That'll be around the corner and here before we know it. Andrea, question.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly. That was a wonderful presentation, and thank you so much for being part of this program. Your comment about diversifying the pro bono opportunities by including more solo and small firm lawyers in the pro bono center's opportunities was music to my ears as a solo practitioner. And I'm curious whether or not the opportunities will be available for solo small firm lawyers in both the more opportunities for the advice and to participate in the advice and referral clinic, and also the advocacy and justice clinic. Those are, I think, some, just really spectacular opportunities that provide incredible training experience and, just the ability to, really follow through on a case, particularly with the full scale representation clinic that I know that solo small firm lawyers would really appreciate.
Absolutely. And you're right. But both of those clinics are really popular with our volunteers, and with being, like I said, when I was a solo practitioner, kind of being able to have someone to reference, to mentor, during the pendency of a case is priceless, right? And so, so the opportunities exist now, right? So for the advice and referral, again, we're hoping, Q1, first part of 23. But for our advocacy and justice clinic, that those opportunities exist now. And so I will give Nancy the contact for Adrienne Gottschall, who runs that clinic, and we are happy to have people volunteer. And quite honestly, placing cases through our advocacy and justice clinic is hard, because they're full rep cases, right? And so we absolutely like to hear that people want to take cases through our advocacy and Justice Clinic.
Fantastic. And I think we can probably circulate that information to our DC Refers attorneys so that they are aware of those opportunities.
That's
Thank you for that.
absolutely wonderful.
Kelly, there's also a question in the chat about whether you have the training schedule for upcoming trainings.
Yes. For training, yeah. So we have had a number of vacancies within the Pro Bono Center. I don't think it's unique to us, right? Lots of legal service providers, and really, across the nation have kind of had a problem with vacancies, and so now we are in the process of kind of filling our vacancies. We hope to have our training program kind of complete and ready to go again, hopefully sometime soon. But I will say that, to have access to a lot of our videos and training, we have a whole bank of it. And so I would refer people to our website when it comes to our training program. And you're also free to contact me, and I'm happy to kind of let you have access to the training that we have. And a lot of them actually have been updated recently as of even of this year. And so I think that they are still kind of a lot of really good material online for on-demand training.
That's great. Are there any other questions from folks who are here? Oh, Jen.
Thank you. I'll lower my virtual hand. Thank you so much. I second what Nancy said about still learning more about the Pro Bono Center. You all have been a tremendous partner as we try to mentor law students as well.
Yeah.
I hear from a lot of folks looking for help, and part of my regular referrals are DC Refers, and typically it had been the Pro Bono Center. I do send folks to Law Help, but I so agree with you, Kelly. I know there's an explanation or exploration of a centralized intake line. That's a long process, no doubt, to even explore the possibilities. But am I doing the right thing still in directing folks? I try to tailor it a little bit. So hearing about Litlan and Flan and the various possible resources, I'm all ears as to the best sort of centralized place to avoid folks being frustrated by the time they reach you.
Yeah, so I think Law Help is probably the first place that I recall. But again, as I said, we have our telephone tree, which is our helpline, is another resource. And so the good thing about our kind of telephone resource is that if they want to talk to a live person, they can, right? And so so I would think that everything that you are doing now to continue, but I think Law Help is probably the best bet for referral.
Great. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Kelly, thank you for sharing all of what is going on at the Pro Bono Center. I put in the chat links to both our next DC Refers Reconnect, which is on December 12th with Safe Sisters Circle and the Mothers Outreach Network. And then also the link to our YouTube channel, where we'll put this recording and recordings of our past DC Refers Reconnect programs as well. Thank you, everybody. Have a good afternoon and a happy Thanksgiving, and we hope to see you soon.
Thank you.